Hello YouTube, hope you are doing it well. Another very underwhelming background from me today. I'm sitting in the office at the gym. I've been thinking a lot about training around being sick and how to really tune in with auto regulation. So this is a topic that I've really got to know well through training, 20 plus years myself of always wanting to train, not liking to have days off generally. Having young kids, often when they're young, fighting sickness and stuff like that, it's going around the house and you still want to train. So, and I see it all the time in here in the gym in terms of parents especially getting sick and it derailing them, it taking away any progress that they were getting or momentum that they were getting. It's probably a better way to put it. So my thoughts are around this is that there's not a black and white answer to what you should or what you shouldn't do. But a big part of it comes from experience, comes from the wisdom of knowing yourself and knowing your body. So there's basically two ways to train. There's the way that there is a program prescribed and you do it no matter what. This was probably the mentality that I had when I was younger, maybe in my 20s, maybe even in my earlier 30s. I had this mentality of like, okay, I'm hitting this amount of weight today, it's on the program, I'm doing this many sets, it's on the program, and come hell or high water, I would do it. But as I have matured and probably have, more responsibility, more life stresses, I've realized that I'm not a robot and that I need to respect also what's going on in my life, but I also want to train. So the other way to train, apart from just blindly following a program, is auto-regulation. And you'll see anyone that's part of my Gym the World movement, in the earlier years we had percentages prescribing numbers that each person would try and hit on each lift. It would be in today's session, their numbers. In the more recent years, we've gone to an RPE, rate of perceived exertion, because I really believe this way of doing things, which is auto-regulation, is a much smarter way of training, especially if you're not 20 and bulletproof. So auto-regulation just means that you're checking in with your recovery, you're checking in with how you're feeling somewhat, but mostly around recovery, and letting that dictate what your session looks like today. So there's a lot of nuances in that. With recovery, you really do need to know yourself. You need to have some understanding of training, of the processes of what things feel like. You need to have, or the more wisdom you have of training and recovering, then the more data and feedback you're going to be able to pull upon in terms of making your decision as to where to push today. Another big thing that I often talk about or mention is your personality. If you're someone that tends to do too much and do it too fast, you need to have that awareness that you're going to be looking for ways to do more and for telling yourself that you are feeling fine when maybe you've had a week of really shit sleep and high stress, and maybe it is time to pull back. Versus if you are someone that generally struggles to get moving, to get going, to get to the gym consistently, then maybe your tendency is to be looking and seeing that you are a little bit under recovered. So there's a personality thing in there as well. But with all of that considered, the way I think about it is it's like another video I just made. It's around knowing that something is better than nothing, and that a session doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect for you to feel good after. It doesn't have to be perfect for you to maintain or even make some progress. So I know I have the tendency to push pretty hard and to find ways to train. So if I know that, I'm feeling a little bit run down, then I can really be true to myself and saying, hey, it's okay for me to back off today. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I think I had a day off. I was really sore. I felt like I was really sore. I had gone for a big run for me the day before. I felt like I was fighting getting sick. So I had the day off completely, which I was okay with because I had trained really hard for the 10 days leading up to that. And then yesterday I was feeling I was feeling like I wasn't any worse and potentially a little bit better. So I did a fairly low volume strength session. I just did some front squats, a little bit less weight than what that I did the week before for the same reps. And I did deadlifts. With my deadlifts, the week before I did sets of 3 at that weight. Yesterday I just did singles. I just did 1, but I did it on every minute. And I accumulated around about the same volume, but it just felt a little bit less taxing for me. So I just did front squats, deadlifts, big lifts, but I stayed within myself a little bit. And then I did some reverse hypers as some accessory work, and that was it. It was probably about 30 minutes without rushing. And then today I felt better again, but still just on, not wanting to push it too much. So I just did 20 minutes nasal breathing on the bike. I still pushed it. I think I set my record for nasal breathing for 20 minutes on the assault bike. And then I just did some arms. I did about 12 sets of arms. So, and then tomorrow, if I'm feeling better again and feeling mostly back to full health and, good energy, then I'll push back to normal tomorrow. So I could have easily really pushed myself yesterday, and maybe it would have driven me into getting sick. Or I could have taken off yesterday and I would have wasted an opportunity to do what I love doing, but also to keep the momentum going, which is really, really important for a lot of us. So I guess it really just comes down to knowing yourself, knowing your tendencies, whether you are someone to look to train or whether you are someone to look for excuses not to train, and then adjusting things, being really, really true and honest with yourself where you need it. So if you're feeling good, then make the most of that and push it. You need to push hard to get adaptations once you've been training for a while. If you're feeling average, then know that something is better than nothing. And there are a lot of shades of gray. It doesn't need to be train full tilt or have the day off. Okay, there are a lot of different in-betweens. And sometimes I think a lot of people get caught up in the fact that, it's like the same thing with nutrition. If it's not perfect, then there's no point. And that is really, really, really the killer of progress, especially if you're busy, especially if you have life stresses, especially if you have people around you getting sick or you get sick quite often. You need to find ways to have those shades of gray. So hopefully that makes sense. Shoot me any questions if you have any. I love discussing this sort of stuff. See you soon.